Here with my morning tea, trying red tea this time. I forgot what it was called, Rubus, something like that. But yeah, red tea. But today I wanted to talk about the butterfly effect. I've been thinking about this actually a lot. Actually, it's been on my mind almost like for the past 2 days. I would say it's a pretty interesting concept about how one little action can affect so much. It's like one, whether you're holding a door open for someone, if you're eating a healthy meal and it continues the routine and it causes you to like it affects us all in such a beautiful way. I think, like, I thought about every little thing that I do technically causes a butterfly effect and like affects what I do in the day and how it results. And like, I I like to question how sometimes that I think of like the bad things in life, and you can think about the bad things that have happened in your life and what would have happened if those bad things didn't happen. I wouldn't be the person I am today. I wouldn't be the how would that change my character in today's society? I would just I would think about that a lot, right? Because you have your, some people have their regrets. I don't know. I still question if I have regrets technically because it did cause me to go and have the maturity that I have today. Um, but I don't really understand it, and I really like to just talk about it because it interests me a lot. It's like the small actions in life. You text someone, how did that affect, how significant of an effect did that have in your life? Because sometimes those little things do affect your life in such a big way. But then I started to like analyze all my different things. It's like tiring, but it's fun, right? It's like, how does, for example, me making this tea video, right? Me choosing red tea over Earl Grey or choosing all these other things, like, how does that affect my life? And I laugh because it seems silly, but then it gets a little different when you start to analyze different things you do when you go out, when you go to work, when you go to school. How does that affect people? When you text someone, that one little action of texting someone, for example, because now you're dealing with two connections. Not only did I affect someone else's day, it affected mine too, right? Like, I had a conversation that made me feel better or something like that, but how did that make that other person feel? And what would have they done if I didn't text them? You know what I mean? Like, it's it's really tiring, but I like to think about it because it's just so interesting. Because it starts the ripple effect, and then because that person didn't do what they were originally going to do, now someone else was technically affected or something, or like, I don't know. I think it's interesting. But aside from that exhausting concept that I'm trying to get away from, I just I think about I think about the meaningful things that could have happened. That you don't even know, but you probably already changed someone's life in a positive manner. Like, when I think about the amount of times that I've given someone a compliment while walking, or given someone, like, just started having a conversation with that person, you don't know what kind of effect that had on that person. Maybe they were having a bad day, and just hearing that, hey, that's a cool looking coat, hey, some nice shoes, brother, you know you don't know exactly what's going through their mind. They might have not taken it too seriously or whatever, but sometimes that little compliment goes a long way and it makes their day, because maybe they had a series of bad, a situation of bad events, and they they really, like, maybe they had a really bad set of unfortunate events happening in the day. Something bad happened, they spilt their coffee, and then they had to clean their shoes, and then when they went to clean their shoes, they realized they had no soap or some, you know, there could be so many bad things going on in their day, and they had an argument, and then from that argument they went outside, and then they were walking, and then while they were walking, you said, hey, you have nice shoes or whatever, and that could have, like, made their day 10 times better. And like, just that temporary relief, that knowing that like someone still cares, or someone just random out of the day like wanted to make their day better, really affects them. And I like to think about that. That's why I try to I try to ignore my anxiety about like, oh, you know, what are they thinking of me? How could this, like, you know, like maybe I'm scared or whatever. But I always try to think, how could this, maybe it makes their day better. Maybe it, you know, even if they don't respond to me, maybe they heard the compliment and it makes them feel 10 times better, you know? And it's powerful to know that you could be someone's start of someone's chain reaction, you know? And obviously you have to take that into account on both sides, because it could be positive, right? It could be positive, like giving that compliment, but it also could be negative. That's why I try to stress the importance of my words. I try to think of every time I say something, I think about the repercussions before I say it. And when people, you know, if people that know me personally, whenever I'm angry, I usually become quiet, because I try to think before I say things, and I don't want to say the wrong thing, because then you can't take that back, right? It's forever. And then that, after you say something bad, it could actually start that negative chain reaction, and I don't want that to happen. And that's why I try to motivate you now, is I'm doing this, I'm making this video because I'm thinking about the same idea of how my YouTube channel could make that little bit of change in someone's day. Yes, I don't have a lot of viewers, I don't have a lot of subscribers, but I love the idea that those days where someone's going through something and they just click on a video and they find it interesting, or they find it, you know, and then starts that same ripple effect of like, wow, that was very impactful. And then they start to have that more positive mindset and stuff. That's why I encourage you to do the same. When you're walking out, don't care about people's thoughts, whatever. If they don't respond, who cares? The thought that making someone's day could be better, whether it's opening that door and holding it open for them, whether it's giving that compliment, whether it's giving just, you know, some gifts or whatever, and, you know, like sending someone a message and checking up on someone, that could really mean their whole day. And I want to encourage you to do that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Every little thing is special. Try to keep in mind that these things are very sacred and very special, and don't undermine those small decisions in the day, you know. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed my little ramble about how I think the butterfly effect is pretty beautiful. So I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.